guys, so today I am back with another video about leopard geckos. A week or two ago I did a video that was responding to another YouTuber, and basically in that video I just talked about what I really didn't agree with, and I showed you guys how I would set up a budget leopard gecko setup. In that video I did use a bin as the enclosure because I was trying to stay on a budget, but I mentioned in the video that I personally don't use bins for my geckos, so that wasn't an accurate setup of how my geckos actually currently live. So today I thought I would just show you my leopard geckos and actually show you how I keep them and what their enclosures are like. So if you guys don't know, I currently have 3 leopard geckos. I have Pablo right here, Felipe is right here, and then Piper is down here. You can barely just see the top of her enclosure. So today I'm going to be showing you all of their enclosures and just talking about what I have in them. Before I show you the enclosures in more detail, I just want to answer some of the questions that I know I'm going to get asked, such as what size of enclosures they're in, where are they from, and everything like that. So to start off, my 2 male leopard geckos, Pablo and Felipe, they are both in the 24 by 18 by 12 exoterras. These are generally the size exoterras you'll see used for a lot of leopard geckos. I think they make the perfect home. They allow you to have multiple hides and plenty of enrichment while also still giving your gecko some places to explore. So they are definitely the most common exoterras you'll see, and that's why I have both Pablo and Felipe in those. I picked up one of them at a local reptile shop and I got the other one at the Reptile Expo because where I live the exoterras are usually a little bit cheaper at the expo. I believe I paid $100 for Felipe's at the expo, and then Pablo's was probably around $120 or so at a local pet store. I do know that you can usually find them at big chain pet stores like Petco and PetSmart, but I've just found that usually exoterras are actually a little bit cheaper at local stores or especially expos. Plus I like to support local stores when I can, so that is where I got those. So even though those are the most common size for leopard geckos, my leopard gecko Piper is a little bit more spoiled, and she actually has a 36 by 18 by 12 exoterra. While I don't think this size is needed at all for a leopard gecko, I do have to say she's a very active gecko and she does use all of the space provided. I got this for her when she was one of my only reptiles. She was the first reptile I ever got, so she was a little bit more spoiled. I also picked up her enclosure at a local pet store, but once again, you can find them about anywhere. Now that I've talked about their enclosures, I just want to mention their heating because you won't really see that in the video. All of my leopard geckos do have a heat mat that is attached to the bottom of their enclosures on the outside of the glass. On Pablo and Felipe, I have a heat mat that covers about 1/3 of their enclosure. Piper actually has a pretty large heat mat, so it covers closer to half. And then the most important part that I do want to mention is they are all hooked up to thermostats. This ensures that the heat mats don't overheat because these things can get exceptionally hot if they're not regulated. I try to keep my leopard geckos right around 93 degrees. It does fluctuate a couple degrees, but my thermostats do a pretty good job at keeping them right around 93 degrees. I do just use the cheaper thermostats that you can find on Amazon. None of them are actually branded for reptiles. I think a lot of them, like I showed in my last leopard gecko video, are actually for like growing plants, I think is what they're marketed towards, but they work great for reptiles. I've used a variety of the cheaper thermostats, and personally I've never had a problem with them. I know some people recommend you go out and spend like $100 or so on a herpstat, but I've never seen the need because these have worked perfectly fine, and as long as you're not having any issues and you're regulating your heat pad, I think that's good to go. So I think that's all the basics I wanted to cover before I showed you their enclosures in more detail. So what size they're in, how they're heated. So let's go ahead and I'll introduce you to all my leopard geckos. We'll go ahead and start down here with Piper since she was my very first reptile. So let's take a closer look at Piper's enclosure. Okay, so the majority of this video is going to be on a handheld camera. I'm not using my tripod, so I'm very sorry if I give you a little bit of motion sickness, but here is Piper's enclosure. Like I said, this is a 36 by 18 by 12 exoterra. Along with her enclosure being larger than the other two, there are a couple major differences. The first one is I actually use ceramic tile for her. My other leopard geckos, I use paper towel, but I decided to try tile for Piper a long time ago, right when I upgraded her to this enclosure, like a couple months after I got her, and I've really been enjoying it. So she does have tile, and the main difference is she actually has a UVB. UVB is kind of a hot topic with leopard geckos right now, and I think a lot of people agree that they don't necessarily need it as long as you're supplementing correctly, but it can be beneficial. So I decided to go ahead and just try it out. So she has a 5.0 UVB over here. It only covers the warm half of her tank, so if she doesn't want to be in the light, she doesn't have to be under it, but she does have a 5.0 UVB on top of her enclosure. Now that I've went over the basics, let's go ahead and open this up. I can actually see her right in here. I actually just redid her enclosure, so she is still pretty awake. So here is Piper. Right now she's in her warm hide. So her heat pad covers this main area. Like I said, her heat pad is pretty big, so it covers almost half of her enclosure, but this is her main heated side. And right now inside that hide, it's sitting right at about 93 degrees, which is giving her the nice heat she needs. So other than that, up in this corner, she just has a hammock. Piper absolutely loves her hammock. She actually doesn't sleep on it, but she likes to get up there when she wants to come out of her enclosure. She'll get up on her hammocks to make sure that I see her. So her hammock was on her cool side, but I decided to put it over here to see if maybe she'd want to use it with her UVB. So she has her hammock, and then she has a cork round. This cork round could technically count as an additional hide, but it's just kind of some more enrichment. It gives her some places to explore. This is actually probably one of her favorite hides. It's not a very big round, but it is big enough for her to get in there, and it makes her feel extremely secure, so she actually sleeps in this quite often. Other than that, she just has this little plant up here just to give her some textures to explore, plus it makes it look nice. And then back behind that is her humid hide. It is partially on the heat mat, not all the way, but in her humid hide she just has some damp paper towels. That's just to help her with her shedding. And then over here is the cool half of her tank. So there's just another fake plant in the back, her water dish that has bottled water, and then some plain calcium. Not everybody leaves calcium in their leopard gecko's cage, but I do leave plain calcium in there, just so if they feel like they need a little bit more, they have access to it. And then I do supplement their meals with calcium with B3 plus a multivitamin, but I do leave plain calcium in. And then over in this corner, that is her cool hide. I do have a paper towel under it because she likes to go to the bathroom in her cool hide. So that just makes it a lot easier. Every day or two, I can just replace that paper towel, and it keeps her cage nice and sanitary. Also, I know I keep saying cage instead of enclosure, and I'm sure someone's gonna yell at me in the comments, but you'll get over it. And then the very last thing in her enclosure is just this plant. Once again, it just adds some enrichment. She can hide behind it, she can climb it, and it just gives her some more stuff to do. So that is Piper's enclosure. Moving on from Piper, up top we have Felipe. You can see my lovely reflection in the glass. I'm sorry if these angles are a little weird. They are on the top shelf. Luckily I am pretty tall, so it doesn't bother me like when I'm cleaning or interacting with them. But it's not the easiest angle to film, but it looks like Felipe is actually waking up. He looks like he's getting a little bit dull, so he'll probably be shedding soon, so I need to make sure that his humid hide is nice and damp. But Felipe is my newest leopard gecko. I think I've had him about a year now. I got him at a local reptile expo. He is a firewater, which is a rainwater albino mixed with a tangerine. I forgot to mention that Piper is a super hypo tangerine carrot tail baldy, in case anyone's wondering. I know you really didn't get to see her much. But like I said, this is a 24 by 18 by 12. And right now Felipe is just chilling in his warm hide. So just like Piper's, this is hooked up to a thermostat and a heat pad and stays close to 93 degrees at all times. Back behind that, he just has a fake plant just to climb on or hide in, whatever he wants. Up in the front, he has the same food dish as Piper. I did not mean food dish, water dish. I hand feed all of my geckos, which is why they don't have any type of food dish in their enclosure. I personally like to tongue feed them just because they're awful at hunting. Plus, I just love the interaction and I love spending time with them, so I do tongue feed them. But just like Piper, he has the plain calcium along with the bottled water. And then moving back to the back, he just has his paper towel substrate, this fake little cactus just to make it look a little bit nicer, and the same humid hide. So that once again just has some damp paper towel in it. And then over on his cool side, he has his cool hide right back there. And then there is this log over it that he can hide under or climb on. I found that leopard geckos like to climb a lot more than some people will say they do. All of mine climb a decent amount. So I like to give them something just so they can get up off the bottom of the cage or the enclosure if they want to. This heat pad is not on his Exoterra. That is actually on the side of my Pac-Man frog. So it looks close, but that is not his heat pad. But that is Felipe's enclosure. I don't think he's going to come out. I actually think he went back to hide. But now we will move on to Pablo. So here is Pablo, my last leopard gecko. Once again, he's in a 24 by 18 by 12. He is up here right beside Felipe. Since they are right beside each other, I do have this old piece of reptile carpet that I keep between their enclosures. They are both males and I don't want them getting stressed out or territorial. So this way they just can't see each other and they don't freak out and stare at each other all night. But Pablo is sleeping right here. He has the same warm hide as Felipe. It's just on the opposite side of his enclosure. Once again, it's about 93 degrees. I don't know if he's going to to come out. It is the afternoon, so they're not quite ready to wake up yet, so I'm going to leave him alone. And then back behind that, he is his humid hide. His humid hide is actually a mason jar. This is an idea that I stole from Emily on YouTube. She has a lot of leopard geckos and she uses mason jars for them, and I thought it was a good idea because Pablo actually will not use a humid hide. He never had one, I don't believe, before I adopted him off Craigslist. So usually he does have some trouble shedding and I have to soak him afterwards to get the shed off his toes. So I didn't want to go out and spend like $8 to $10 on a humid hide that he won't use, but I still wanted to give him the option. So he just has this mason jar in the back corner that I put a damp paper towel in. So that is his humid hide. Up beside his warm hide, he has this fake plant that he can explore. Once again, the same water dish and calcium as everyone else. Here's his cool side over here. So he has this hide, and then he also has a cork round. This is something I just gave him about a week ago, and this is definitely his favorite. Almost every night when I come in here to feed him, he'll come out of here. He loves to just sit in here and stick his head out. I have a really cute picture of him doing that on Instagram, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, I will link that down in the description like always. You should definitely go follow me on there. And then the last thing in his cage, once again, is just another fake plant, just so if he wants to climb on it, hide in it, just do whatever you want, just to give him a little bit more enrichment. Oh, so he's going to come out and say hello. Hi, Pablo. He's the only leopard gecko that I don't know his specific morph because I did get him off Craigslist and I didn't get him from a breeder, so I don't want to assume anything, but he's a little tired. You can see he can barely keep his one eye open, but that is Pablo. So that was a look at Pablo, Felipe, and Piper's enclosures. Hopefully you guys like seeing just kind of how I like to keep my leopard geckos. Right now I am very happy with all their setups and all of them seem to be really happy and healthy. They're all really active and they're all eating well, which is always a good sign. If you guys have any questions about my enclosures or just any suggestions on what you might do different, let me know down in the comments. I always like interacting with you guys and hearing people's perspectives. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you guys next time.